Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Today we are going to talk about cloud functions. And talking about cloud functions, we are going to talk why you need the cloud functions, what are the cloud functions, and I actually was avoiding this video because there is some setup, but I'll walk you through the setup and I will make sure that I will post some common cloud functions that you can use in my GitHub repo. Yeah, so this is my GitHub repo, and I will create um, a new folder here called Cloud Functions, and I'll put my code of my future cloud functions that I think they'll be useful, and I'll make videos of them. If you have some cloud functions, like I said, that you want me to write a code for, let me know in the comments. Uh, so yeah, so let's begin. First, what is Firebase Cloud Functions? So Firebase Cloud Functions can be triggered by various events, allowing you to execute server-side code in response to change in your Firebase servers or to implement with external servers. Here are some common types of cloud functions triggers. So uh, there are a couple of ways that you can trigger cloud functions. And I think if I talk about, if I walk through all the ways that you can trigger a cloud function, you actually get the idea how you can use the cloud functions itself. So let's talk about the cloud functions triggers. So there are a couple of cloud functions triggers. I think I listed like 7 of them here, but maybe there are more. So the first one we are going to talk about is the HTTP functions, and those are HTTP functions are triggered by HTTPS request. They allow you to create webhooks, RESTful APIs, or service dynamic content in response to incoming requests. So, for example, you can create an HTTP function that responds with hello world. So this will be so every time you create a cloud function, it uh, it starts with exports and then dot and then the name of the cloud function. So in this case, the cloud function is named hello world. And then we have the then we have the functions that HTTPS that on request, and then we have the actual request and the response, and then we have the response send hello world. So the idea here is that you can actually trigger a cloud function like they said over here to create a webhooks, to create a RESTful API or service dynamic content in response to incoming request. So eventually you can have something like when a user authenticate, for example, then send the data to some other server or some other place or use some other API. Like for example, if a user liked a song on your app, it can be sent to the API of Spotify, for example, and could be added to a list of liked songs in Spotify that the user have. So there are no limitation of that. If you don't know what is webhooks or RESTful APIs, uh, please check that out in internet because I will probably not have the time to do this as the video will have like the video will be like 2 hours if I start to explain everything. That's why, like I said, that's why I wanted to avoid this video. But because this is super powerful, because the Firebase Cloud Functions are super powerful, and I really recommend you to actually finish the whole video if you don't know what are they, and even if you know what are they, just finish the video and I think you will learn something new there as well. So this is the first one. So if I create, I can actually say first one here. So this is the first example. The second example is the real-time database triggers. And in Firebase, we have the real-time database and we have the Firestore database. And FlutterFlow is actually using Firebase database and not the real-time database. So I will actually skip this because it is the same as the third one. So this is the second one, but I'll just keep it and I'll just go to the third one, which is the third one is Firebase triggers. And like I said, this is because we are going to use Firestore database with FlutterFlow, and that's why it is the same. Like I said, they are the same triggers for both databases. So the third triggers is Firestore triggers, and those are functions can be triggered by events in your Firestore database, such as onCreate, onUpdate, onDelete, and onWrite. So this is probably one of the most used cloud functions in Firestore, and this is the most wanted functions in Firestore because the whole idea is that, for example, when you have an update document in your Firestore, this cloud function will be triggered and it will do something. Like, for example, if you have, for example, let's say that you have a cart of products and you add a new product to this cart. Let's say that you have a collection of cards, and every time a user created uh, a new cart with products, you have the products in this cart. It will be a document and with a list of products, and you have a reference to the user. And every time they add a new product in the cart document, so they actually add a new product in the cart, you want to actually sum up the sum of the total of all the products added to the cart and the total quantity. So you can actually do this with a cloud function, and you can actually have something like uh, another field that will be like total, like the total amount, and another field like the total quantity of everything. And you can actually have a cloud function that will sum everything or calculate everything for you, like on the fly. So if, like I said, if you update or if you update and add uh, a new document, sorry, a new product, or update the quantity, this will trigger this cloud function and it will update everything and make all the calculations. Like I said, I think this is the most wanted one out of the all cloud functions and out of all triggers actually. So we have the same as on create. So if you create a new document, you can trigger something as well. If you have on delete, we can trigger, and on write trigger when a document is created, updated, or deleted. So we have like the both three, we can combine them on write. And then we have an example here. So the example is update a counter when a new user document is created. So for example, we have, this is the name of the function, which is count user, and we have functions, Firestore document, and we have users. And then we have, this is a user ID, so this is dynamic, this will be dynamic. And then we have on create. So we have on create and we have the snippet content. And here we have the counter reference. So we have the admin.firestore.document metadata counter. So this is something that it's coming from Firestore itself. So Firestore itself is actually counting the users for you. So that's why you have this counter reference. And then you can return the counter reference that update. This is actually a document that you have like metadata will be the collection, and you have the counter as a document. And this will actually, you update this counter every time there is a new user. So we have like user count, and it will be equal to admin firestore field value increment by 1. And this will increment the data, and it will update the number of users, and you actually get the new numbers of the user. It's essentially, it's basically like messing, or not messing, but like updating or adding or deleting or whatever your data on the backend. So that's important because sometimes you want to run something on a specific schedule. So for example, this is the fourth one, and the fourth one is scheduled Cron functions, and functions can be scheduled to run periodically at specific intervals using Cloud Scheduler, a fully managed cron job service from Google Cloud. So what that means is that you can actually create a cloud function that can run, for example, that can run every day at 6 a.m. o'clock. So this can be like a push notification. Of course, a push notification at 6 a.m. is not a good idea. But it can be like to trigger a push notification every day for a specific user or for all users, or you can sum something, for example, or work with your data, again, work with your database at a specific time, and then send something or update your database. So in this example over here, we have the daily job, and it is scheduled to this hour. If you're wondering what is this actually and how this can be done, there is actually a great website. It's called crowntap.guru. It's this one over here, and here you can actually play with this. So I think I can delete everything and just place it like that. And this is, like you see, it's every time at 6 o'clock, and it's actually giving you when will be the next time to run this task. Um, and this will be the next morning, tomorrow at 6 a.m. But you can actually do something else. If, for example, if you want to run this every Monday, for example, it would be something like, let's randomize this. So this, for example, will run at midnight at no fan. So this is the minutes, this is the hours, this is the days, this is the month, and this is the day of the week. So in this case, it will run at August. So it will only run August, and it only run at the midnight. So every August, so it started from the 1st of August to the end of the August uh, month. But if you want to run every month, then you just write it every month. And then if you want to run a specific day, so for example, let's say I want to run this on Wednesday. So let's run this only Wednesday. Let's run this when it's 4 a.m. That's I want to run for, let's say, 33. So this is the code. If I want to run my cloud function at 4 a.m. and 33 minutes on Wednesday, every Wednesday, I can actually go to my cloud function and I can actually replace this. So I can replace this, and now this will run every Wednesday at 4:33. So yeah, just keep in mind you can use this website. It's very useful for that. And then we have the time zone, which is in this case it's America, Los Angeles. It's set to, you can set it to wherever you want to, of course, because the time zone matters. Because 6 a.m. in the States is one time, but in Europe it's another, in Asia it's another, in Australia it's another, and so on and so forth. You know that already. So we have on run, we have the context, and what is this cloud function doing? It's only console logging the message. This function runs every day at 6 a.m. Los Angeles time. And here you can perform your actual task, what you want to do. You can update database, or you can do whatever you want to. So this is the fourth one, and the fifth one is when authentication triggers, and this is when a user actually out, I would say out because it's hard word for me to pronounce. So we have the functions can be triggered by events related to Firebase out, such as user creation or deletion. So when a user is created in the Firebase out, so they're talking about Firebase out, and Firebase out, it's actually this out over here, and yeah, we're talking about this one over here. Now we're not talking about Firebase database when you have your users. It's actually they will be created both, but we are talking about the out, which is this over here. So which means that because I think you can manually create, yes, you can manually create a user from here, and if you create a user from here manually, it will trigger uh, that. Or if you actually delete a user, it will also trigger this out trigger or this cloud function. And you can also do this in Firestore as well. You can there is an action to delete a user and to create a user, of course. When a user sign up, there's an action to create a user and then delete it. And then you can say what you want to do. For example, send a welcome email when a new user account is created. And then we have always this export stat, and then this is the name of the cloud function. It's in this case it's send welcome email, and then we have the function out user, and then we have on create user, and then we have console log. Right now we are only console logging it, but we can say console log new user created, and then the user email, and we can send the actual email to the user with all the data. So this is the fifth one. I think that a lot of people will actually want this cloud function as well. But like I said, let me know and I'll make videos about those, the most wanted cloud functions. And then we have the storage triggers, which is functions can be triggered by events in your Firebase Cloud Storage, such as object creation, deletion, or metadata updates. So in that case, when you upload an image, for example, that is a good example that you can actually create dynamically a thumbnail of that image. So when someone is uploading an image, you can dynamically create a thumbnail of it using cloud cloud functions. So for in this example, of course, we have again the exports, and then we have dot generate thumbnail. Then we have functions that storage that object on finalized, which is on uploaded. So when it's uploaded and it's finished uploaded, then we have the path. So we have the object.name. This would be the file path. And then here again we have the console log because this is only a demo what you can do and what are the triggers. And then we have the seventh one. It's a pub sub triggers, and those are functions can be triggered by events from Google Cloud Pub Sub, a messaging service that allows you to send and receive messages between independent applications. This can be helpful for decoupling parts of your application or integrating with other Google Cloud services. So for example, proceed a message when it's published to a specific pub sub topic. And let's say here we have the example, we have the exports that process message, and we have the functions that pub sub topic, my topic, unpublished, so when this message is published, and the actual message which is in the JSON form. And this is the data, and we are console logging it, and we can actually process the data or perform other actions. To be honest, don't think how this can be useful for the FlutterFlow users. But if you have any idea, like I said, let me know in the comments and I can do a video about this type of triggers, pops up triggers. And this is the seventh one, of course, and this was the last one. Probably there are more than seven to be honest, but I think those are the most the one that I think about it. And like I said, I think the most wanted will be three, which is Firestore triggers on create, on update, on delete, and on write. And we have the Chrome one, which is the shadowed functions. Run a function every day at 6 a.m. for example. And we have the fifth one, which is when a user is created or deleted. And I think those will be the most wanted one. And of course, those are some common types of Firebase storage functions triggers. Each trigger serves a specific purpose and allow you to respond to various events in your application or integrate with external services. For more information, you can actually visit the documentations of the cloud functions. Let's see if I am able to open it. Yes. So this is the page I'm talking about. It's Cloud Functions for Firebase, and you can read more about it. There is a lot of documentation about it. And the triggers, probably the test functions, how to write a function, how to deploy a function. But today we are going to talk how you can actually write your first function and then deploy it. Okay, so first thing that we need to do to write our first cloud function and deploy it to Firestore is to have Node. So you can actually, because I'm running Linux, and I think that most of you guys don't have Linux and are running Windows or Mac. You can actually go to Node and download and install Node. There are a lot of videos about that in the internet, how you can do it if you have any problems with that. But this is the first thing that you have to do. You have to install Node and have Node installed in your machine. And the address is nodejs.org. And then the second part, the second step is actually to install Firebase uh, Silly, which is the command line prompt, and you have to install that globally in your machine. And this is how you install it. So just before you install it, this is my terminal, and as I said, I'm running Linux, and if you, I think it's the shell, it's CMD, it's in Linux or PowerShell, sorry, in Windows or PowerShell in Windows, and I think it's called terminal in Mac as well and Linux as well. And I think all the commands are the same. So when you install Node, make sure that you have the npm version installed. So you have to write npm slash slash or dash dash, sorry, dash dash and then version. And when you click enter, the current version that I'm having is 964. Okay, and then you can just write this text over here, which is npm, and then install, and then I want to install globally, and I want to install globally Firebase tools. And because I'm installing this globally, I will actually run this with sudo, which is the admin rights. So I will have the admin rights of that. So it should be something like that. And then if you're running on Windows, you should just run your PowerShell or CMD. Just right, I'll usually right click it and just click on run as admin in Windows. But in Mac and Linux, you can do it like that: sudo npm install, and that G for global, and then Firebase dash tools. And then I hit enter, and now it's starting to install. It is actually giving me some errors, but this is actually good because if you get the same error, you can actually see how you can deal with it. So in my case here, it's saying that Firebase Tools is not in the registry, so it's not found. Yes, and of course, the problem is that I didn't spell it correctly. It's Firebase, and I wrote it. Probably you saw that already, and you're screaming at the screen. So yeah, it's Firebase dash and then tools. So I click enter again, and now it should start installing it. Yes, okay, that's great. And now we have to wait a little bit. And while we're waiting, we can actually go to the next step. And the next step is actually to log in into our Firebase account. So the third step will be to log in. And we can log in using Firebase login. And this is how you do it. Just write Firebase and then log in. I'll pause now to log in. So let me just pause for a second. So because I don't want to see my credentials, of course, but when you enter this, you'll get allow Firebase to collect uh, CLI or SLI and emulate uh, suite usage and reporting information. The default is yes, and I will actually say yes to that. So I'll just click enter to that. And when you click enter to that, you get to a page when you have to click on your Gmail address that you use your Fire base with it, and then you just give permissions to access Firebase. And when you're ready, you should get this screen, which is woohoo, Firebase CLI login successful, and then you're logged into the Firebase command line interface. You can immediately close this window and continue using the CLI. So that's great. You should get that as well. And then we can continue with the next step. And the next step is the fourth step. And the fourth step is actually this command will open a browser. Yeah, this actually, sorry, this is the same step. And then the fourth step is create a new project. You already have the project. I'm assuming that you already have this project created. And when you have the project created, the next step, so you should already have a project in connected to your FlutterFlow. And the fifth step is actually initiate your project. So create a brand new folder. So I will actually create a brand new folder, and this will be mkdir will be the name, will be the command in Linux to create a new folder, but of course you can create it with the UI in Windows and Mac. And the new folder will be fp or Firebase. I'll create Firebase, and I'll create this new folder. And then here inside Firebase, I can actually execute this command, which is Firebase init functions. So when I execute this command, Firebase init functions, I will actually, so let me choose first, of course, I have to go inside the folder that I just created, okay, and now I can provide this function, this command, which is Firebase init functions. And let's hit enter, and now we have to wait. And now it says we have this Firebase init function, and then we have a few options. So use the existing project, create a new project, add Firebase to existing Google Cloud Platform project, and don't set up a default project. I will actually set up my default project, and I'll use an existing project. So I will click enter, and on the next step, you actually, I skipped this next step because you have to actually select your project. In my case, the project is a beta project, but you can select your project, your name of the project, whatever project that you have. And then what language, the third step will be what language would you like to use to create Cloud Functions? I will actually prefer to create the Cloud Function using JavaScript because it's more friendly to me. But if you want TypeScript, you can choose, of course, TypeScript. I'll choose JavaScript. So I'll choose JavaScript. And then it says, do you want to use AS lint to catch probable bugs? And default one is no. I will actually stick with the default one. Just press enter. And then we have, do you want to use, then we have, do you want to install dependency with npm package now? And I will say yes, because this is the default one. I'll just hit enter. And it says yes, as you can see over here. And now we have to wait again. And this is going to set up our folder inside our machine to connect to our project in Firebase. Okay, so when you're done, you should see this screen, which it says found no vulnerabilities, and then it says the last message will be Firebase initializations completed. And then you should, in the folder, if you go to the folder, you should have firebase.json and you have a folder called functions. And inside this folder, you should have index.js, package.json, package dash log.json, and you have node modules. Node modules is the folder where your node modules are installed. And the most important one will be the index.js, because here in the index.js we'll actually put our the actual Cloud Functions. We'll put it here. Okay, and then we can actually finally write our first Cloud Function, I think. So in order to do that, we will open this with Nano. I'll open this with Nano, but you can open it with any text editor or IDE or whatever you use to write your code. So I'll open it with Nano. So let's cd into functions first. So let's cd into functions. So now I am in Firebase is my name. It was my name folder, and then I went into functions. And here inside functions, I will say nano, and the name of my file is index.js. And nano is a text editor based in a terminal. So it's very basic and you don't need to actually use it. But like I said, I'm using it just for the demo purposes, and that's why I am using it. And there is actually a Cloud Function already created for you, and it says hello world, and the response will send hello world. We can keep that, to be honest, and we can create our next Cloud Function. So just keep the command for references, and then I can copy this, and then I can paste it over here. I'm pasting it with Control-Shift-V, and I don't need the const because I already have the const over here, so I can delete the const because I don't need it. And then I have my Cloud Functions. As you remember, Cloud Functions, if I go back here to the triggers, so those are my triggers. So let's say, for example, I have the trigger for sending an email. So if you remember, every Cloud Functions begin with exports. So this is the same here. So I have exports that, and this is the name of the Cloud Function. In this case, my Cloud Function is the name is hello world, and then I have functions dot. In this case, I have HTTPS is the name of my function. And I think this is the first example that I showed you, which is HTTP. Yes, exactly. So you have these functions that HTTPS, and we have on request. So the idea here is that when you trigger, when you log in into this website, you get the response hello from Firebase. But the idea is that you can actually create a website where you want to something change to your database, or you send an email to a user, or eventually you can create a webhook. This is the whole idea. And like I said, if you don't know what is a webhook, there's a lot of videos or information about webhooks in the internet. So yeah, you can dig into those there. Okay, so we are almost ready. This is the cloud function. We can now save it. I'll click Control X, and then do you want to save it? Yes, I want to save it. What is the name of the file? This is the name of the file, not change it. Enter, and now I just save my function. I can actually see my result if I say cat and then index.js and click enter, and you can see the contents of this file, which is okay. It's fine. I save it. Those are commands. As I said, I can delete them, but I'll just leave them for references. Okay, and then we go to the next step, which is the sixth one. And then make sure you replace the contents of the file. We already did that. And then the final step will be to actually deploy our cloud function. And deploying our cloud function, believe it or not, it's very simple. First of all, make sure that you are in the functions folder. This is very important because if you're not in the functions folder, it will not deploy your functions. Even if you say functions, it will actually not deploy it, because I was struggling with that, why it's not working, and that was the idea. That was why it was not working for me. Okay, and then we have this. So the functions that you have to run, or the text that you have to write, it's Firebase and then deploy and then dash dash only and then functions. The reason is for that dash dash only is because we only want to deploy functions here, cloud functions, and not something else. There are a lot of things that you can deploy. In this case, we're only talking about cloud functions, so we are going only to deploy cloud functions. Then I hit enter, and when I hit enter, of course, I have to wait a little bit. Now it's deploying the actual cloud functions to my project. It's loading. And then the last step, so it's actually asking me a question. Would you like to proceed with deletion? Selecting no longer continue to the rest of the deployment. So because the following functions are found in your project but do not exist in your local source, it says that I have some cloud functions in Firebase, and if I go to my Firebase and if I click on functions, you can actually, I think you can find functions. Yeah, if you don't see it over here, you can find it in build functions, but when you click it once, it should appear over here. And I have already two functions. The first function is ff private apico. This is because I have I have deployed a private apico with FlutterFlow, and I will not actually delete this function because I will use it. And this was about a video that I did for how you can prevent CORS errors when you deploy your project for the web. And then you have another one, which is scheduled push notifications, which I did it from actually from another computer. So that's why I don't have this cloud function in this computer. And it's actually asking me, do you want to delete those two cloud functions because you don't have it in your computer? And I'll actually say, no, I don't want to delete them. So if you have the same question, don't delete your cloud functions because something can broke in your Firebase. So I would say no, and the default one is no, so I'll just click enter. and then we can wait a few seconds. And while we are waiting, the last step that we can do is actually see if our Cloud Function is deployed and see our Cloud Function in Firestore. And the other thing that we can do is actually see our Cloud Function, to actually open our Cloud Function and see the response of it. But I will pause now so the Cloud Function is finished loading. Okay, so now it's finished, and then you can actually go to your Firebase, and then I think I can refresh this page and I should be able to see my latest deployed Cloud Function. And indeed it is this one, hello world. It's US Central, and then this is the link to my Cloud Function. So if I go back here, you can actually see that you can go to this. Now you can go to this website and see what you get from this website. So this is the website over here. So if I copy this address, should be able to copy this address, and now uh, using the terminal, I should be able to write serve, which is like a command to actually open a website in the terminal, and then I can write my Cloud Function address, or the webhook address in my case. And if I click enter, I should be able to see hello from Firebase. So let's see if this is the case. Let's click enter, and indeed you can actually see that I get hello from Firebase. And if you actually open the same address, if I click Control and click on this address, I should be also able to see hello from Firebase. So this is the Cloud Function that I just created, that we just created actually, because you created, I hope that you created the same Cloud Function. This was important to go through those steps. This is the first video of many series of videos about Cloud Functions. And the reason for that is, like I said, you can use Cloud Functions for a lot of things in Firebase and FlutterFlow. So to know how to write your first Cloud Function and to deploy it, it's very important. It's not that scary, to be honest. So yeah, watching this video, I think will lead you to the right path to complete your first Cloud Function and deploy it and actually run it. So you can use your imagination, or you can actually use, of course, ChatGPT to write your Cloud Functions. Now that you know how to deploy your Cloud Functions, try that. And yeah, like I said, let me know what Cloud Functions do you want me to write in the future. And before you go, I just wanted to say thank you very much for reaching the end of the video. Like always, I want to thank you because 99% of the people don't reach the end of the video. So thank you very much for reaching the end of the video. That means a lot to me, believe it or not. And then you can actually visit the page that I created. If you don't know about it, you can visit this page where you can actually see my videos. And the last time the code uh, was not running, but now it's running. Everything is running. So the whole idea is that you can actually click on the code and you can actually change your collection. So we have here cars, but you can actually say, let's my collection name, for example, it's dogs. So you can change your collection name, and then you can copy this code and you can paste it. I'll paste it over here to just show you. And yeah, you can see right now it's dogs. So every time that you use docs in your code, it is docs here as well. So let me just close that. So this is the page I was talking about. So yeah, it's a very handy page, I think, because you have the video explanation about the code. You can see the actual code and you can copy the code. You can change the code and you can copy the code. And the other thing is that you can copy the widgets. So when you press this button, you can actually go to your FlutterFlow project and paste the same widgets that I'm using in my videos, which I think it's great with the actions and everything else. And there is a video how to use, so you can watch this video. And thank you very much. Have a nice day. I hope that was helpful.